ran into last year, like, oh, whoa,
You're
that's,
looking at 6,500 for a year. That's what they have here. So,
and whether it happens or not, it's just one of those things that, it happened a couple times last year, well, more than 2 times. Just on, yeah, when you send something to a dealership to, and it really hit when we had to do warranty stuff, so,
And the 6,500 isn't all warranty work, right? Some of it's gonna be
yeah.
changeover, so it might be,
just repairs.
Fuel down, believe it or not.
Really?
It scares me. It scares me doing that.
Every other
That's-
department that's come in has raised because
That's
of fuel.
based on, we work with, and I asked again yesterday, are you sure we're gonna go down on this? Because it scares the heck out of me, because, and then I looked at the numbers again today, where we at currently for current budget. Well, yeah, we would make it, but I said, well, fuel's going up. It's been going up these last few. So that one scares me. And that was going with the shops and going with, I can't remember who it is. Who is it that took over?
Steve.
Steve that does it.
Steve, and we're not sure if he kind of grasps all the new technology.
Yeah, I'm not
Showing
sure.
how much fuel we
I'm
use,
going,
so-
okay, are you guys positive? But
and usually the shop will overproject.
yeah, so I don't know.
We'll look at it as part of the.
I'm-
recommendation.
I'm leery of this number. I'm just going,
Yeah, at $4 a
Everybody in
gallon,
the-
how can you be going?
and I will tell you, and last year we were down, this whole current budget, we've been down 2 patrolmen, so that's less 2 cars that have been running this year. 2 cars that haven't been on the street, because we have 2 openings in patrol.
I'd highlight that one, look at it real close.
Yeah,
Already done.
so that's one of those.
Blue highlighters for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am so leery of that number.
Yeah, we run out of money, we can't patrol anymore.
So, but that. I'm going, you guys, but
Were you fully staffed in 22?
patrol wise,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say,
Well, I'm
I'm
gonna say we're down 1 and 22.
gonna say at least 1
Yeah, we're
down.
down 1.
Okay. I'm just looking at what you used in 22 versus if that would be a good gauge or not, so I'll throw that one in there.
Okay. Telephone, so that's down. 650. Cell phones, obviously, that's when we went over we issued all the patrol guys cell phones, so we're in year 2 of that. When you guys decided that we should do that, which it's been a good deal. Vehicles, so vehicles up, and we do, I know you guys asked earlier what the cost of purchase comparison, so I've got those as well, and it's in that page 17. If you go to page 17, if we were to, like, let's say fiscal years, this year we purchased it, you'll see on that last option 2, vehicle purchase option. So it'd be 5 vehicles at $48,822. So that would be at roughly $244,000. And then the installation, you would have to budget for it 5 vehicles at $25,000, which would equal another $128,000. So those 2 combined would be your outright purchase number compared to the lease option. And that's just for the 1 fiscal year.
That would be about 370,000.
Yeah, I'm just doing that math.
Yeah. So it's there, you guys asked for the comparison, it's there.
Well, I think for you guys, leasing makes total sense, just to turn the vehicles over and have better equipment on a regular basis.
And that's where we're at that point now, we're just, it's all new stuff going in and out. So I don't think you'll see where that value is. I don't know where it'll be until year 5, where the rotation goes out and we're turning in whole vehicles. and seeing what that residual is.
Yeah.
So the comparison's there if you want.
Thank you.
Search and rescue down 5,200. And we've got some other search and rescue stuff going on, so, but it's a good thing, and we'll be discussing you guys with that. That's a really good thing going on with the community and search and rescue. That's, we're gonna come to you guys here sometime in the future, a plan that's going forward with some community members that are interested in search and rescue and expanding that, which I think is make it a better search and rescue overall. And there's some really good people that are in the community that approached us about this, so I think you'll be impressed with who wants to be involved. So, prisoner transport, that's for both sheriff and jail, up just slightly. And prisoner transport we try to do in-house as much as possible, unless, you know. Photography's down, uniforms up, and that's with the new position, and that we'll discuss that in the budget, so that can either be there or not. And canine's up, and that was the supplies, I think, increased supplies, cost of supplies. Critical equipment, that was up a bit. And that was in critical equipment, you can see on page, itemized out, what page is that? Page 16?
16.
And some of the highlights there is that they put in for riot gear. That's probably one of the bigger items that I think it's on that criminal division, probably down 17,000. It's like the second to the last item listed there. And then on there is also the ballistic vest, which we put in for the whole amount, but generally we get a grant that pays for half of it. But until you get the grant, we put in for the whole amount, and it usually covers 50%, maybe a little less than 50%, but until you get proof of that grant, we put in for the whole amount. So, other areas, there's other areas that, I don't know if you have any questions, but it's all itemized there. And like I said, we looked at some of this, and if there's areas that need to be trimmed down, there are areas we highlighted saying, well.
So like the Kevlar and stuff, adult probation was in here yesterday and they was looking at getting some vests and stuff too, and some tasers and stuff. Do you guys work together at all in joint
They haven't,
purchases?
I don't-
They haven't approached
they
us.
haven't approached us,
Okay, I just,
but, and I don't know if they're looking to do vests through the grant as well, do you know, Christie?
She said the grant was more police oriented, but she was working with Nancy on some other grant options
Okay,
to try to get some where they might cover the full cost. And then she was going with uniforms to gear
right,
to get most of those
that's
two
where we get
items.
ours.
And she got a couple other quotes, but she said that uniforms to gear was better.
Yep,
yeah.
we found that as well.
I was just wondering if the county's gonna buy stuff, if we
Right.
buy it in bulk, I mean.
I agree.
Or make sure that.
Yeah,
they're
or they
getting
want to
the
get with
same
us to make sure
quality.
they get the good equipment too, because we've
Yeah.
been through it for years. We know it's the best stuff
And uniforms and gear,
and best deals.
it's good that they're going to them, because that's who we go through. And we've tried other vendors, and it's just having someone local, we find that we can call them and say, look, this is not right. It's easier than some of those bigger corporations that you're just a smaller. I mean, who was the big one we tried to go through with, that Taysom was working with? Galls, which is huge,
It's terrible. Though.
and they've got a huge inventory, but it was horrible. And we did just a small control group to try to see how it went, and it was bad, so. And I think our lieutenant figured out,
Make sure she gets one.
Yeah. I can-
yeah, we're more than happy to work with her as far as working with, because Will there, he's been really good to work with. And he's actually, we're about to have our own website with them as far as where our deputies can go in and order, and they only have certain listed things that we approve that they can order,
Nice.
which will help navigate some of that, which I know they could probably set up with probation.
Yeah, we just talked about it yesterday. And be working together.
Yep. So overall change, you can see the bottom of that if you go back to page 1, it's up a little bit as far as our B budget and sheriff.
Thank you.
Questions or anything? Sheriff's side? No? Okay. Jail B budget? You got anything? No. Sheriff's side? No. All right. Jail B budget. Office supplies down 2,200. No change in records. Computer supplies down. Like I said, back to that rotation. IT's done a great job of rotating our computers, so we're caught up. And this year the rotation's not as big. Operating supplies up. So that was the biggest one is that PREA inspection that's happening this year. August. Wait.
September.
So it's gonna happen, and that's where ISA doesn't do pre-inspections anymore. We have to do outside, so it's a private inspection, and that means it costs more. So they put in for the full amount of that, but that's one area we can probably trim, because we did get it. ISA is gonna pay for it. So that was before we knew. So that's an area we can
We
Got
can
a
take
grant.
out 9.
trim. Well, 45, not, I don't,
Okay. We'll talk to you maybe
yeah.
when we do the.
But that's an area we
presentation.
know we can probably
Okay.
trim down.
Okay.
Because ISA, and I think because ISA can direct pay that too. So, which was good news, because as soon as I got that information, I sent it to jail, they put in for it, they were able to. So we've got the MOUs all set up, MOUs that the ISA sent in order to get that paid for, so I think we're good that way. So that was the biggest increase in that area. So, but I think we took care of that since then. Jail investigations up $350, and I think that's a body camera or two. That's the difference. No change in the next item. Office equipment, biggest thing there is Spillman. Spillman's up 16%. So that was a big change in that one. Security systems, so that was up, but we used to pay that in 461, so we switched, that's where that jump made. 461, we put it in this line item now. That's why it looks like it's increased, but we used to put that in 461, but we moved it.
So while we're there,
Okay,
the intercom system and stuff, that is capital right now,
yes.
and is that gonna get done, or
We're hoping.
what?
It's,
Where we
it's
at?
all about
I don't-
equipment coming in. We've been waiting, so we're hoping it gets done.
Just wanted to be aware. that
Yes.
That may need to be put in
Right.
next year's budget also.
We're hoping.
Any other major project?
There is. There's like, Are you talking about for any major projects for next year?
Yeah, I just don't see anything for capital here, and I just,
There will, we'll get to that.
okay, I just.
Phones, so communications equipment, that's down, because I think IT is now paying for BPS, that used to be in there, so that's why that's down. No change in the next two. So electricity, so those next three items, utilities, so we got I don't, you probably got the same letter, but we got a letter saying that, from the power company saying that they expect a 10% or more increase.
Yeah.
So those are the adjustments, basically. But even then, I don't know, it says 10% or more. So that's some of the bump in those utilities. Vehicle leases, just the jail van, and this will be year 3 of the 5-year for the van. So prisoner ambulance, so that's up. So this is the last quarter, man. Our ambulance usage has gone up in our jail. That's kind of a shot in the dark of how to even forecast how we use it or when it's going to be used. It's I know the big thought now, I mean, ever since the last deal with Quick deal, it's the thought is, yeah, you have in-house medical, but for us, our thought process to our deputies is, hey, look, you guys still have ultimate say on what's on the livelihood of these inmates. So if you feel something's wrong and it's bad, and you don't get them out of here and get them checked. So that's kind of the mindset of our deputies. Like your own kids, you don't hesitate when you want to take them to the doctor. It's the same thing. Use common sense. Know if you've got to get them transported, get them checked out, get them checked out. So, but I know there's been some more serious things going on that, and obviously that navigates through our medical first, and then. But that's kind of our ambulance usage has been up a little bit in this last quarter. Prisoner transports, no change. Alternate incarceration, down a little bit. So we're not using much of alternate incarceration as far as having to send people out because of overcrowding. So it's down a little bit.
I'm sorry, can you just tell me what that is exactly?
So when you have a population issue and you have too many people in your jail, you send them out to other counties to help you house.
That's what that refers
Mhm.
to? Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So, and it costs, they obviously charge you to go to other places. So now,
Right.
Photography up a little bit, and that's for like, investigations use them, booking photos, just different things that need to be photographed, $100. Uniforms up, DART team, which is our detention version of SWAT when they have to do extractions and stuff. DART uniforms, booking PREA and maintenance uniforms. That's kind of the change in that. Next two items, no change. Inmate programs, down a little bit. Programs are there's still quite a few programs, but a lot of them we pay through commissary that we can utilize. Commissary funds to pay for that. And that's generally what we try to use initially for those programs. Maintenance and repairs, that's where some of those projects on page 8. Wait, page 8?
Yeah.
Page 8? Oh. So this is where I know Ernie, you asked, this is where all these projects are kind of listed out. And we usually have Levi kind of rank them in order. And you'll see on page 10, he kind of puts them in rank of 1, 2, and 3, in order of importance. And of that, of the 700, of that total, like I can't remember the complete breakdown, maybe it's in here, but 100 and something is just 150,700. That's just regular maintenance day to day. That's what accounts for keeping the lights on, general maintenance. And then the rest would be projects, the 628,000 would be projects on that in the jail. And like I said, that's on page 10 in order of importance. So. Any questions on that, any of that? So the next item, that's probably our biggest jump, is in-house, the medical contract. Increase roughly about 20%, and that's, we're still below, I mean, we went through it with them, we're still below the average of what costs for in-house. Biggest difference for us, which I love that we have, is our 24-hour service. We have a nurse 24/7 where no other county that has, at least Ivy don't have any other. We're the only contract that has a 24/7 nurse. So if there was a cost saving to have, it'd be getting rid of a 24/7. That they've mentioned that if you don't want the 24/7, that would be a cost saving, but we've already seen it be productive for us. I know we've had an inmate had a runny nose, which everyone thought was a runny nose. Woke up in the middle of the night asking for nasal or some kind of decongestant or tissue. Well, the nurse checked on him and said, "That's not snot, that's brain fluid." So they sent him out to the hospital and find out he had brain issue, brain bleed, and actually, if they didn't catch it, probably would have died in our jail. But it was actual cranial fluid coming out of his nose, and that was in the middle of the night that the nurse caught it and was able to send him up to the hospital and take care of the issue. So
Are they on site or are they?
they're on site 24/7. So, and we actually worked it out that if they didn't have somebody on 24/7, that they would pay us the hourly wage in a refund, which they have been doing. Like if their nurse doesn't show up or calls in sick, they actually cut us a check for those hours that they're gone. So but it's been, I don't know, we've been happy with Ivy Medical, because they've been, number one, we can call Sherry or Dalen anytime we have problems, and they're on the spot. It's, they're local in Idaho. They've been really, really good on visits and dealing with problems, staffing issues. They're on top of it if they have staffing issues, and we don't have to worry about the staffing with nurses or doctors or PAs. It's been really, really a good relationship, and they're really on the forefront of helping us put this MAP program together within their jail. they support it. I know Sherry's husband, he's a certified addict doctor, so he knows all about it, and he actually wants to be involved in that program when it does too. So I don't know. So there's an area, and we actually asked them to bump up the. I know they were paying. We would pay for everything under $500 or $500, and they would pay everything excessive. We bumped that to $1,000, so now they're paying for anything under that $1,000 mark. And then we got rid of what was really killing us too was the nasal sprays. A lot of nasal sprays. So we told them we want that off the table. You guys pay for those. So they said okay. They agreed. So we got those off the table. So a lot of give and takes when they asked for this increase. So, but. Like I said, I'm happy with their service. They've been really good. And right now, their staffing's been on the spot. We haven't had any staffing issues in the last 6 months. So, and really no changeover either in their staffing. So, it's been good. Dental, man, been having a lot of dental issues, but a lot of people with bad teeth in the jail. So we just got a new dentist, so newer dentist. So we've been trying to curb him on providing too many services. We're like, hey, just the essentials. You don't need to do, So he's been kind of curbing that. But he's new, and he wants to do a good job. But sometimes those newer ones want to do too good of a job, if that makes any sense. So, so it's one of those. It's a learning curve for him as well. So, and I think we've got him dialed in of where he needs to be with that service. No changes in the next 3 items. Prisoner food up. Cost of food. Roughly, so interesting thing about that was we didn't have a contract last year for some reason. Don't know why. So we were going off 22's contract, and they asked for an increase mid-contract, and I told them, no way. I'm going to the commission and asking for back pay on an increase that you failed to ask for. So, basically, I said, well, they asked for, I think it was like 12% on top of the 6 point something they wanted. And so we came to basically that 15% would be suffice from the 22 contract. So I think it's actually be less than what we put in for, but just to be safe. But and I think I've got the numbers at my office, and that just transpired within the last 2 weeks, because I don't know why they didn't have a contract from 22, since 22. There wasn't one in place, and they try to ask for some increase mid-contract. Yeah, there's no way, dude. We can't do that. So. But I think we came to an agreement that I think it's actually less than what we have. Maybe I shouldn't say that, so they can't see it. But so prisoner food and medical, they were probably the biggest increases. In fact, I know they were. Cleaning supplies, obviously an increase in price in the cleaning supplies. That's the difference there. Law library, no change. Property acquisition, 5,000, and that 5,000 is a floor scrubber that we want to get for all the new floors that were put in. Right now, they're just doing a mop, wet mop. For our maintenance guy, we want to get one of those mechanical floor scrubbers that you.
Them ride-on ones?
No. It's a push behind.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just
No, it's a drag behind.
He's moving,
don't know how to
he's
run.
moving a mop around, and half the time we're swimming in our hallways, so, like, man, you gotta dial down the water, dude, but I just, I don't know, with those new floors, like, man, we gotta get something better to clean these floors, so they stay maintained. And then, critical equipment, the biggest change is those vests again, and that, like I said, a lot of these vests need to be changed over, and that increase, obviously, we put in for the full amount, but the grant should cover roughly 50%, maybe a little less. So overall, B budget, down 400,000. If you were to include the PILT and the 750 that were in, what's that?
For the roof.
For the roof, yeah. So, yeah. If you add that 130 and the 750 that was budgeted last year, we're actually down 415,000 in our jail budget. So. Questions? Do we want to do court security, court marshals?
Before you do your summaries.
Yeah.
So court marshals has their own department within district court. I can give you that page number, or if you just want to look at the book.
It's in there if you want to do it. I mean, we just kind of oversee it. We manage it. It's court money, basically. So we're just finally within the last 2 years, we get to look at the numbers. In the past, we didn't really. So those numbers are B budget, office supplies up. Computer supplies up 3,200. He said all those as well as far as.
And unlike that, computer supplies and stuff, they all go through IT, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Everything.
I figured everybody did, but.
Computer software maintenance. So.
Is that
And that's at Access.
for
That's
the new system?
the new system. If,
Assuming it's-
depending on what happens with the new court security system. So I know that's in process.
Sorry.
So that's really depending on what happens with that.
I missed you mostly.
You guys need a table
You good?
now or
We're
something?
good, it's all on the table. I'm a little under here. It's fine. I'm on a struggle bus this morning.
So then that repairs and maintenance and security systems. So that was interesting because I think that's as far as IT didn't want anything to do with that, any of the security camera repairs. They didn't want it in their budget.
They've moved it, yes.
Okay, so that's where that's changed here.
Yeah, Adam talked to us about it when he was
Okay.
here.
Then uniforms, critical equipment.
I do have a question on the uniforms.
Okay,
I'm not a fan of the implementation of the hodgepodge that it was done with. It
Yes.
either needs to be A budget or B budget by person. So we'll deal with that
well,
in the clerk's
we'll deal with that as
recommendation.
far as, and I'm of the same mindset that it's,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
and then critical equipment and then that capital, that's that security system. Wherever that's in procurement. right now.
So we'll probably have to budget something in there, unless by chance it just
Shows up.
gets done really fast.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay. A budget? Let's do jail first. Is that okay with you guys? So jail, let me get this up.
38.
The jail's probably the easiest one right now. So I guess I'll start with retirement payouts. We've got 4 eligible for retirement. And the request is about 40 grand for a payout, but I don't know what the status is as far as possibly one retiring. But that's, we're forecasting the 2, but don't know. Cell phones, that's just the 3 captain and the 2 lieutenants. Overtime budget, no change, and 207K, no change. So on call, that was the new line item that was on the table. So I know Ryan had a formula on how to do it, but when we ran the numbers, it was way expensive. I mean, we were in the 100,000s. So we spoke, Christy and Jason, about a possibility of just doing a flat rate, which would be $50 a day. So in the jail, they have the bubble. So what they do is currently they have 4 people that have to be on call. 2 for the day shift, 2 for the night shift. Kind of a primary and secondary, just in case one person can't come in, they call the next person in. So they actually were kind of put 4 people on the bubble. Our proposal was just paying for the 2 primaries. 2 people, the day shift and the night shift that require to be on call. So they'd be paying 2 people on call 365 days a year. So it'd be that 2 times the 50,000 or $50, sorry, $2,050 a day. So what is that?
36.5 a year.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a little discussion yesterday. There's no way we're gonna have a policy that covers everybody. We're gonna have to have different policies per office. So that's a conversation we're gonna have to figure
Okay.
out and get the procedure down. 'Cause we've talked about it, and if we try to go to everybody's different. I mean,
Yeah.
adult probation, they've worked something out in their office that, they trade hours and different things. I mean, so we'll have to have that discussion with each office and
Mhm.
kind of see what the policy is.
And that's why we kind of looked at it initially, thought, man, that's a lot of money. And that's why we kind of came up with this flat rate, which was a little more affordable or reasonable, and paying for at least the 2 and not the 4. That brought it down as well. And to me, it seemed more prudent to pay for the 2 people that have to be on call. and the backups, maybe not so much. And at least that was a starting point,
Do you know how often those backups get called in?
all the time.
So in this budget, did you allow for that with your new calculation?
No, it was just the first two primaries. And the jail administration was good with it, because it was something, because for years, there was nothing.
Right.
You were just required to be on it. So at least the starting point is pay for the first two that have to be on there, and we can maybe grow from there and see, and just track it to see how often this happens.
So explain a little bit more to me. So you've got 4 people basically on the bubble, say. The 2 that are getting paid, they have to answer, don't they?
Correct.
Okay.
That's
'Cause,
why.
I mean, we're not paying them if
No, no, no.
if they have the option of not
No.
coming in.
No.
Well, what happens if somebody doesn't answer their phone? What do you guys do?
They go with that next
I go to
option.
the second person.
Okay. Do you have any disciplinary, any discussions, or is it,
We will now.
Yeah, I don't think it's really been a problem going past that second person.
Yeah,
because everybody knows they're on the bubble and that they
Yeah.
need to respond?
correct.
Correct.
Yeah, I just didn't want us
Oh,
paying
no.
somebody and they have, I'm just not gonna answer my phone today, but I'm getting my $50. You
Right.
know, and then the
No.
next guy has
No,
to
no,
go to
no.
work.
There's definitely gonna be,
Consequences or,
It's like the sheriff said too, they're used routinely, that first on-call person's always getting called in.
yeah.
good, good.
So, yeah, but it was one of those things, how far do you go with it when you're trying to implement this new thing? So we figured we just start here. It's a good starting point for us.
Well, you can hurt morale as much as help morale if a person is getting paid and then doesn't come in, and then the other
Correct.
guy's not getting paid. I mean, you can cause some pretty serious contention.
Right. So, but they gotta be held to that. Hey, you're on call, you either answer, you know, especially, you're not gonna put in for any on call if you're not answering your phone.
Yeah.
But that goes with the detectives. I mean, they're just known. We've never had issues with detectives. It's an understanding. You gotta answer your phone. So I think the incentive probably pushes it even more so that they're gonna answer. So that 42, and then in this as well, the 42 is included with our maintenance. And that's only one weekend. They're not every night. The compensation would be for the weekend. That's the only kind of, he
Yeah,
oversees the maintenance.
We just figured that was, we're just trying to be fair in what we can do, and we figured if we just cover them on their weekend, one person to be on call, then that was
That was suffice,
efficient enough.
you know, because during the weekdays, it's probably more we can get by because they'll show up the next day, or they can, it's a simple call that they can probably navigate on the phone real quick. But as far as a weekend, that kind of do it in a different level, so.
So it says see narrative here. Is that what's in the book here?
Yes,
Okay, because I
Yep.
didn't see it in here, so.
yes, it'd be in that book.
Okay. And that's what, we'll have to look that over, because it'll become a county policy,
Right.
so. And compare it, how we can evaluate with all the other departments.
And within the narrative, they do a good job of explaining 2 deputies per day, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. And then like I said, maintenance was just covered for the weekend. That's it. Not every day of the week, so.
Do we need to look at increasing your overtime in 207K with not being fully staffed, or are we gonna use unfilled line items?
That's where we've
To cover
been,
that.
that's where we've been covering it
Okay,
Yeah.
with the openings. So that's where it's kind of like, I don't know, do you, or yes, because if you do get full staff, you don't,
shouldn't need it as much.
yeah,
Okay. Then we're not double budgeting.
right. And no position requests. I mean, it talks about there in the future how they'd like to get, but it's in there as far as future requests, but currently no. Especially when you had 7 openings. So,
Any changes on court martial? A budget?
don't believe so.
Just because you said your sheriff budget's where you're gonna have more, right?
It's the sheriff that's where,
I mean, there's gonna be some changes just due to Paula's retirement, and then, so we're gonna have some,
yeah. In fact,
Shifts
there'll probably be
there,
a little bit of savings in some of those, especially with the court marshals.
a little bit of an increase in overtime to a
Yep.
but not significant.
No, payout, there are, I think, one eligible. But nothing as far as, an increase in their overtime and some, just because the court dockets have been pretty crazy lately. But nothing really big in court marshals. No. All right, sheriff. Sheriff A. So our biggest goal this year with Sheriff A was number one, kind of what we did with our Sheriff A's. We were able, being that we were on a different chart now with staying on the 22 chart. We, as a sheriff's office, where you're talking about families and all that, we grouped ours in our scale as certified and non-certified. So all the uniforms and non-uniforms, which would made it so much easier for us to track as far as how to track our A budget. And our biggest goal this year was to try to get non-uniform adjusted back to where last year they did the 7% COLA this year. So last year with a 7% COLA, our non-uniforms didn't get the 7% just because of the other adjustments that you guys made with the uniforms. In the jail, in sheriff's side, all the uniforms, really, the adjustments were made there last year. And the COLA of that 7% wasn't distributed necessarily all the way to our non-uniforms. They basically took the sacrificial, they were the sacrificial lambs for last year's adjustment, which was a decision we made, I made as their sheriff, but it needed to be made. So this year, our ask is to try to get those adjustments made through our non-uniforms, if that makes any sense to you guys. So our first adjustments were made with all of our professional staff. Records, driver's license, civil, just everybody in the non-uniform side. That's where our adjustments. So some of them, whether they got 3% last year, 4%, whatever percentage was, our ask this year is to adjust it. If it was 3%, a 4% adjustment. If it was 4%, a 3% adjustment to catch them up to the COLA that they didn't get last year in the full. So that's probably our biggest adjustment in our sheriff's side. And as far as uniforms on the sheriff's side, very small adjustments, if any, in most of our uniforms. So our biggest ask, like I said, is and I can go over that in more detail here after. I'll just go over those other ones first. Retirement payout, there's 7 eligible, but I don't foresee anybody leaving, but we put in for the 1 payout just in case. Cell phone stipends, down. I think the only stipends are myself, you, that's it,
Ballard.
and Ballard, Captain Ballard.
Yep.
Overtime, up a little bit, 207K, not much adjustment. So the on-call is detectives. That's our only on-call on the sheriff's side. And that's a person every day of the week. So, and it's pretty self-explanatory and that's using that $50
Same formula.
same formula. And we would do that same formula all the way across the board. Detectives may be a little bit in the future, maybe adjusting it because it really doesn't touch. If we were to do like they first anticipated doing the hourly, at least $2 hour minimum of payment, the $50 doesn't really equal that. So they're probably a little under as far as the first idea of how to compensate that on-call. But for us in this initial year-long call, we figured we'd just do the 50 all the way across the board because it's more than they ever had in the past. I know all our years of being on call, we never got compensated anything. So for me, it was like, oh, you're getting something now. So at least to initiate this, it's a tracking mechanism and figure out how we can start this out. That's kind of where we concluded with all that. So, and then probably the biggest ask is a new lieutenant position in court security. So a lieutenant with Captain Ballard, and that's the thought is that for our succession plan. She's probably one of those that's eligible. She is one of the 7 that can retire. We have no succession plan for her, and having a lieutenant in that position would help with that. And I don't know when she plans to go, but it's one of those areas that really there's no one in place, and that's a lot. Where she does extradition, training, court martials. There's a lot civil, so there's a lot on her plate as far as what she does. And we have no succession plan.
Would that be funded through the sheriff or through the court martial budget?
I have it in the sheriff.
Okay. Do you have a preference? Is it going to be multitasking?
Yes.
In that it would do work out there too?
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. It's training, extraditions here. I mean,
I didn't know if we could, if it's going to be partial district court function, I don't know if there's a benefit to use district court monies versus justice fund monies. That's the only reason I'm asking. There's levy room in both, but as far as showing a function, if it's going to have more court martial or court security responsibilities.
You just named 4,
Just
so
throwing it
I mean,
out
if
there,
it-
yeah.
a quarter of it could come out of the courts, and
right.
We could
I mean,
maybe split it somehow like that.
we do that with other departments.
Yeah.
But
So we
it's
can-
definitely good.
We can work on that smart. It won't change supervision, it won't change what they do.
Correct.
It's just funding side.
Right.
Funding.
So you would still have total control of the position. It would just change on an annual basis if the responsibilities change. But we can talk about that because I'm sure we'll be meeting on the clerk's recommendation.
Well, and I think she's got a lot too much on her plate
Yeah, and
now.
that position just keeps growing and growing what she's doing, so we need somebody to support her, just like we were talking about earlier about the training. We're self-contained with more of our training. She's over that training, and you could almost put a person in there full-time just over the training
Over
itself,
training, because training
it's
is
so involved
huge.
with what we're doing now.
track post certifications and everything, and getting people lined up for posts. It's a task that
One of the things she's been good at too in that position too with that training, going back to talking about that training, is we host a lot of training at our facility too. That way we get free positions when we host those classes too. It's another way we've been trying to be efficient with that budget money with the training.
generally, if we do host, we get free seats, so
Yeah.
we try to host.
If you're not doing training, that's the quickest way to get a
Oh.
lawsuit.
Well, and that's the first thing they pull
Plain
when they
simple.
come, is they ask for training records.
Yep.
Especially, it's the very first thing they ask for. I'm like, ugh. So, but that's probably the biggest ask in our A budget, is the new lieutenant position. Aside from that, there's, like I said, there's the adjustments in our non-uniform, is the biggest adjustments. As far as uniform,
Did you put that lieutenant position in here?
Mhm.
Oh, 'cause
It should be on the bottom.
Top, not
Yeah,
at the
top.
Okay,
Yes.
that's why it's not where I'm expecting it.
Like I said, based on that position, that'll have a ripple effect. If that position happens, then the numbers in the B budget are pretty accurate. If it doesn't happen, then obviously that's something you take out across the board down B budget and some of the uniforms, radios.
Teresa's usually got that broke out,
Right.
so that I can get a quick reference point.
Does.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Hey, you done well.
Unless you guys have any questions, so.
I'm just curious about, let me pull it up, in the jail,
Okay.
the, kind of the maintenance and repairs. I believe I put those in there and ranked them 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Where's my page?
16 of it?
Yeah.
I'm just curious
10.
what your opinion is on those. Like what you would have first, second, third, rather than a 1, 2, 1, 2 ranking, high, medium, low. It's hard for us to look at those and see which is gonna be, I mean, some of it's just maintenance, like polished concretes and stucco repairs, stuff like that.
Well, polished concrete, that's transitioning those tiles in the jail.
Right?
So there's still phases of that to get, in order to get that all polished concrete in there.
But I'm looking at converting the cells in the female housing to wet cells
Mhm.
versus the booking shower renovation. Like, 'cause probably can't fund all of these things, but which one of those things do you think is more important?
Converting cells, now we talked about that way back in the days when we were doing expansion.
Right.
is Providing more, so that would, it's kind of a 50-50 because, yeah, it gives you more options with housing people when you can convert those cells into wet cells. It gives you more options to be able to house people, whether it's, especially when you have disciplinary issues. But the booking shower renovation, I mean, they'll tell you that's important as well, because when you have, with the new laws that are coming out and having, basically what they're doing is trying to provide a more private shower area in that booking, which is used every day.
Yeah. And
So-
he does have that booking shower as the #1 ranking, so goes along with that. But I was just curious your personal feelings on those things.
It'd be a discussion myself and the captain and Levi would have, if we had to really pinpoint which ones we want to fund first and foremost. And that could happen pretty easy,
Okay.
But it's definitely when you come over, we can have that discussion. In fact, we'll have that before you get there.
Yep.
So,
And does he have any bids on this, or is this just his evaluation and estimate?
I know he got bids
Okay,
on majority of it.
yeah. That's we've had others that just give us numbers and say, well, we think, and I don't want it to be a thing.
No, and I know Levi's not the type to just throw a number out there.
Okay,
He
I
would
just-
not feel comfortable with that. So,
Just asking.
I know he's had calls, especially when some of these people have been over doing other projects. He'd ask, what do you think something like this would cost? So,
Yeah, I know he's gotten bids because he's really had struggles getting bids, just people don't return his calls, and yeah, we call 5, 6 people and can't get one person to give us bid on things, so I know he's been really working hard on those, so.
We've just had others that have just says, well, we need to do this, and I think it might be this.
Yeah.
We did that with other projects this year and couldn't put up a building.
And Jason, on that, going back to what you were saying on the importance on those, that's just really, we haven't had that discussion with the importance, just because I felt they're almost kind of equal importance on those two.
but we can definitely narrow that down.
But
if
we can.
Well, we'll look at numbers and see what things look like.
Yeah.
Let you make some cuts.
And on some of these, the other discussion we could potentially have is, so like converting the cells, does that provide spacing, distancing? We might be able to use potentially ARPA funds if it's going to fall within that category. So possibly a little more information.
It does.
In that aspect, because that's one of the criteria on some of those projects.
It does, and it gives us a lot more latitude with housing, you know?
Because we
Because
may
that's why
have-
we moved females into a different C pod because of that. Because and it's the female pod that we're talking about on these. We had to move into a different pod just because the female population is going up. We needed more flexibility, and then they're becoming more problematic.
Because some of those ARPA funds
Population.
that are designated, if we don't have purposes for some of those, we might be able to fill some gaps and then free up money in other, like property taxes, so we could do a shift.
Well, I also
Something
know
like
with
that.
with that area with those female pods too, when you have those wet cells too, it just makes it more efficient for those officers to work in those pods, because they're not so focused on just, I'm a popping doors all day and that's all I'm doing.
Because they gotta use the restroom.
You gotta use the restroom, I gotta get out, gotta get back in, pop the door again, so they're spending more time amongst the inmates actually doing what they should be doing than just doing door control when they're working, so that's why it's really, one of the main reasons it's so important. The actual effects on the officer makes their job so much easier too.
Okay?
Any other questions?
I don't.
Should go ahead and put us at recess till the historical side.